Okay.
We can have it be private.
William Afton. Okay, fine. Do we want to start over?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm recording right now.
You're recording right now. Okay.
Wait. Actually.
Alright.
Wait. Actually. Just let me make sure everything's actually connected. Okay. Yeah. Everything is connected.
Okay.
I'm thinking that image of Reese doing his presentation. What do we get? We have lower.
Alright. So are we ready? We good?
Yeah. We're good.
1 second, gotcha. Just say go when we're ready.
No.
Alright, hello gentlemen. Thank you for coming to my 5 Minutes at Freddy's lore presentation. Currently on the screen is the titular Freddy Fazbear, his first iteration in the first 5 Nights at Freddy's game. He would proceed to go under a lot of iterations over the course of the series, but we can get into that later. For starters, we need to go over the origins. So, in roughly the mid to late 60s, we have two inventors, William Afton and Henry Emily, who started a pizzeria franchise called Fazbear Entertainment, opened with the location of Fredbear's Family Diner. And it's based around the animatronics that the pair co-invented. And keep in mind, this is like roughly a decade before animatronics would be invented in the real world. So these two were like mechanical geniuses, and that results in their immediate success. And William, for context, has 3 children, and Henry has a daughter. They'll be discussed in detail later, and because Scott Cawthon is a Republican, their wives don't matter. They never come up. So, Fredbear's Family Diner. William and Henry invent the mechanically revolutionary spring-lock suits, which are capable of being physically worn by a member of staff and acting as their own animatronics when the spring locks are snapped shut. The spring locks are also highly sensitive to moisture and will snap shut in wet enough environments. This is going to be important later. So, the success of this location and its novelty result in the opening of the second store in the Freddy Fazbear franchise chain, which would be Freddy Fazbear's Pizza shortly thereafter. So, William Afton. William Afton is a vaguely abusive British father of 2 sons and a daughter, and being British, he is obsessed with attaining immortality and intends to do so by harvesting the suffering of children, using the labor and talent of his friend and co-worker to achieve this aim. So, William's children consist of his oldest son, Michael, his daughter, Elizabeth, and the youngest unnamed crying child. So, William Afton... you might be wondering, how does killing children help this purple British man gain immortality? And I'm glad you asked, because in the FNAF universe, because Scott Cawthon is an Anglo-Saxon Christian Republican, souls are tangible physical things that can be reduced to a substance called remnant, which William discovers under mysterious circumstances, probably during a child murder. So, remnant can be used to attain immortality through mostly unspecified means, though recent canon implies that it actually permits one's consciousness to be transported to another host's body after the original one dies. So that's just something to keep in mind for later.
Quick question. Okay,
Of course.
so does this imply that William was just kind of killing kids and then went, oh, or... Actually, yeah, no, that's
It's unclear whether or not he was just a deranged child murderer who did it for fun and then discovered remnant, or if he did it because he discovered remnant. We really don't know.
Let me just let me just say that going into FNAF lore, I wasn't expecting it to have some guy trying to gain immortality.
Oh yeah.
That's so fucking random.
Yeah, well, okay, I really must say, if we had the time, I would love to... Actually, let me go see if Willy Wonderland is still on Netflix.
You son of a bitch, is there jump scares in
while
this?
you go on, because...
There are no jump scares in this, I promise you. There's not even a fucking GIF in it.
Okay,
Willy's
just making sure.
Wonderland...
Alright, so... basically the sister location. In order to acquire more children to abduct, William gets Henry's assistants to build more animatronics for a location that is literally underground that he somehow gets the sponsorship for, adding in his own specifications to the program and design of the animatronics to abduct and kill children to gather remnant. And while this project is underway, Elizabeth Afton, after being told not to approach the animatronic on the right, this here is Circus Baby, She is killed and turned into ice cream by this animatronic, and she proceeds to haunt it, marked by its eye color changing, I think, from blue to green, because Elizabeth's eyes were green. You can actually see that over here on this slide. And Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This is where we get to Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which is first chronologically in the series. So at this point, Henry is growing suspicious of William. So he invents a security bot known as the Puppet now that was introduced in FNAF 2 to protect the children in the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location. William, possibly as revenge or something for the death of his daughter, finds a moment where Henry's daughter is locked outside of the building during a birthday party where children are bullying her by keeping her outside, and he kills her. The puppet collapses next to her body behind the building next to a dumpster as its AI attempts to rescue her as she's dying. But because it's made of the same stuff as the Springlock suits, it loses all mobility and starts just collapsing, and it uses its proximity causes her spirit to fuse with the puppet, making her haunt that animatronic. So William's youngest child, the crying child, curious about his father's work the same way his sister was, goes to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza one day only to discover the puppet hunched over Henry's daughter's recently killed corpse. He assumes that the puppet killed her, so the crying child finds himself like just permanently terrified of the animatronics created by Henry and his father because he thinks that they're going to do the same to him. Now, Michael, being British and an older brother, starts tormenting and pranking his younger brother for his newfound fear of animatronics. But that's when we get to the bite of 83. It is not the bite of 87. Markiplier lied to you. So one day Michael goes too far, causing the bite of 83, not the bite of 87, but it was reasonable for Markiplier to assume this given the context. So the crying child is lifted by Michael and his friends into the mouth of Fredbear, the original Springlock suit, who was performing on stage with the other one that you can see behind it, Spring Bonnie, and we'll get into Spring Bonnie later because Spring Bonnie becomes important. Basically, Spring Bonnie is the suit that that William Afton probably killed children in. So it was a Springlock animatronic whose Springlocks just kind of snap shut in contact with the moisture of the crying child's tears. So then we get to Sister Location. William Afton, after the death of his youngest son, it disappears for years. So he contacts Michael like way later and tells him the location of the franchise's aforementioned underground titular sister location with the promise that he'll be able to find his dead sister Elizabeth there. So Michael enters the depths of the sister location, suspecting that his father might be a child murderer, though he is eventually manipulated by the animatronics who live there, who, through their collective remnant, have fused into a single hive mind entity called Ennard, into having his organs scooped out and replaced with Ennard. So Ennard is occupying Michael's body and trying to blend in with the rest of human society. But it ultimately fails because he begins decomposing because there's nothing to keep his body from, doing it that. So it ejects itself from Michael's body, and despite having his insides removed, Michael is alive because sole unfinished business, residual remnant, whatever bullshit. He, now knowing the extent of his father's sins, vows to find him in a very threatening tone towards the end of Sister Location in, I think, the final ending of the game. So then we have the first death of William Afton. William, in order to extract more remnant, visits the FNAF 1 location, I believe, to dismantle the animatronics. Now, after doing this, the souls of the children rally against him, cornering him into the back room. The way William was able to dismantle the animatronics was by leading them into the back room, which they're programmed to not go into, and then while they're stunned, it just kind of dismantle them. Because what they were trying to do was they were trying to kill William. That's basically the reason that Michael gets targeted throughout the entire series is because he looks like William, and the animatronics who are William's victims confuse him for William. So William puts on the Springlock suit to scare them away because that was what he murdered them in, but because the room is cold and damp, the Springlock snaps shut, killing William while he's inside the suit. However, William, having collected enough remnant from 5 different souls, is stuck in there, immortal, and permanently dying in this back room of a decrepit abandoned pizzeria. So then we get to Michael. Michael sets off on his mission to find his father and put an end to his atrocities. This is the point in the timeline where FNAF 2 and FNAF consecutively take place, with Michael trying to find his father by working at every commercial location in the franchise under various fake names. If you look in the bottom right corner, we have like a bunch of headcanon appearances and personalities for the different security guards. And at this time, there's really no way to know that these were all the same fucking dude. Except for the phone guy. He's just like a guy who worked there and then died in some time during FNAF 1. Michael fails because, unbeknownst to him, his father is still trapped in the springlock suit behind the walls of one of the old locations. So then we have FNAF 3. Michael, after failing to locate his father for 15 to 20 years with no leads, comes across a little fledgling horror attraction called Fazbear Frights that was created to showcase the bloody, grim history of the company. Considering this his only viable option to locate William, he takes on the job. And the first day is uneventful, but the location's owners, having access to the old, now worn-down pizzerias, manage to find the springlock suit hosting William, not realizing that there's an actively rotting corpse inside and confusing it for a regular animatronic. And they put it in the attraction on Michael's second day working there, and William begins to hunt down his son. Now, after having confirmation that his father is the one in the springtrap suit, Michael burns Fazbear Frights to the ground to get rid of him once and for all. Unfortunately, Michael finds out in a newspaper article right after the game that covers the arson that this didn't work, and Springtrap is still alive and well in the background. So then we have Pizzeria Simulator. Now, watching all of this, an old, decrepit Henry, who needs to be like somewhere in his 70s or 80s at this point, decides that enough is enough and concocts this incredibly, impossibly elaborate scheme to get all the animatronics in one place by creating a fake model pizzeria. Michael's desperate at this point to find a way to kill his father once and for all, and takes up the job to work there immediately, considering it another lead as to where his father might be, because the only thing he has is the Fazbear name. Now, Henry, having successfully used Michael's management of the locations and overnight security work to lure all the remaining animatronics to the location, burns the whole place to the ground with him, Michael, William, and the haunted animatronics, killing all of them. So the end. No. Ultimate Custom Night is a game that depicts William Afton's personal hell following his third death in Pizzeria Simulator, wherein he's subjected to the collective wrath of all the people he's killed or been responsible for the deaths of. However, because of all the spirits congregating in one place for an express purpose, it provides William enough remnant to affect the outside world to some degree. It's vague as to how this works, and it's not specified. I'm almost certain that Scott himself has no fucking clue. Either way, moving on, the series isn't even going to be written and produced by him, and everything kind of gets a lot more speculative and tenuous as to how everything actually works. So this is kind of where we have a lot of unknowns. So then we have Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted, which is fantastic. But in an effort to refurbish the franchise, a new company adopts the Fazbear brand and makes a horror game out of it, poking fun at the brand's prior history. In a sort of Fazbear Fright situation, but like not actually. So this lets William, as an artificial intelligence occupied by his spirit, affect the developmental process, literally putting him into the game's code. He manages to escape by trapping another person in the game and leaving through them. Again. He like survives again. So then we have Security Breach. So Gregory is a child who accidentally stayed in the new FNAF Super Pizza Entertainment Mall duplex, past closing hours, leaving him trapped there. So the location security
White woman spotted.
is looking exactly, yeah, white woman jump scare. You can see her in the bottom right. The location security guard, Vanessa, is looking for him. She might be possessed by William. It's really fucking ambiguous. The general consensus was that she was just being controlled by him occasionally. It's assumed that she's the one responsible for the new surge of missing persons cases in the area. And then we have Gregory managing to evade the animatronics and authorities, and then he learns more about the Pizzaplex, and that apparently it's built on top of the Pizzeria Simulator location that Henry made and burned down. And William Afton's robot Springlock, whatever, body is being pumped with remnant to fully resuscitate him and bring him back to the full immortality he had prior to 3. After this, the lore on Security Breach is still ambiguous, and there's still a lot of theories floating around, a lot of debate. There's some evidence supporting that Gregory is actually a robot hosting the soul of the crying child, William Afton's youngest son. Vanessa is the same, but for William's daughter, and this is the incarnation of Freddy Fazbear, and that this incarnation of Freddy Fazbear, Glamrock Freddy, is inhabited by Michael. We don't know for sure what the deal with everything else in this game is yet, but those are just like ideas that we have floating around, but it's still early days. It's difficult to say. But yeah, now it's the end for real this time.
Epic win. Yeah, I saw some I think I actually looked up some stuff about